Hey, what's up everyone? Today I'm going to bring you a video about hill climbing riding hills, what we mean by a hill or a mountain, different types of ways you can train with hills. They're very much like just any sort of training device like a watch or a pair of shoes. You can use hills in a few different ways to try and stimulate your training and make you a better triathlete and a better cyclist. So, I mean, a lot of the times I kind of take for granted some of the things I program or put together, and you can sort of fall into a trap of missing detail or assuming people know what you're talking about. So I thought I'd put together a short video on some of the aspects of riding hills and sort of how I program them or how I go about putting them in a person's program and trying to train them progressively to get stronger and fitter, and continue hitting those goals. So I guess I'm a bit of a stickler for terminology and where possible trying to get it right, because you can confuse people otherwise. So first of all, riding hills doesn't get you strong. Okay, so riding hills doesn't get you strong. The term strength is reserved for things you do in the gym. So you go to the gym to get strong, but you ride hills to improve your muscular endurance. Okay, so by that, all we are saying is you ride hills to improve your time to fatigue. Okay, so what the gym does is it makes your muscles, it can make them bigger, it can improve the density of the muscle fibers inside a particular muscle group, or it can change the type of muscle fibers, slow twitch, fast twitch, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's what we use the gym to do, and that helps us when we start training on the bike to convert some of that strength that we've done in the gym to improving our muscular endurance or our time to fatigue when we're cycling or doing or triathlon or sports specific type activity. So the best way to sort of explain that is using this strength, force, endurance triangle. So with every sport, you can kind of analyze it and fit it into this triangle, depending on the sort of the bio patterns that dominate that sport. So down the bottom left, we have S for strength. At the top of the triangle, we have F for force. And down the bottom right, we have E for endurance. So they're the three main sort of bio abilities. So for example, strength, that would be, like, purely speaking, that would be like a power lifter doing bench press, deadlift, those kinds of exercises. Like if you would just kind of singular it down. F for force might be someone like a high jumper, a Olympic weightlifter. They're going to be more up in this area. And then E for endurance. So if we're talking like ultra endurance, we're talking people who ride their bikes across continents, ultra runners, those kinds of activities. And of course, triathlon fits in here, but a little bit not right in the corner. Triathlon, cycling fits down more in this area. Okay, so it's more of an endurance sport where it uses strength as a complementing factor. Okay, so that's where we sit in the bio ability. So to get better at triathlon, we need to make sure that our training is stimulated towards the endurance part of things. All right. So yeah, I just want to clarify that riding hills improves your time to fatigue. It doesn't actually make you stronger. You will get improved strength gains if you haven't done much riding hills. As soon as you start riding hills, you'll get improved strength gains, but it'll be very limited, and you'll hit a plateau pretty quick. Your you'll use those muscles that you have, or that strength that you have, quite effectively at riding for longer distances. But there will be a plateau where you will need to go back to the gym or change up how you're riding your hills and doing your muscular endurance training on the bike. So I just want to show you that triangle there, just so you get a bit of a picture of where we sit as cyclists and triathletes in the triangle there, the strength, force, endurance triangle. So how do we approach hills? Or first of all, it's probably important to sort of classify hills. So what I'm going to try and do is share with you another screen I've got. So just bear with me a moment. We'll click on these buttons. All right, cool, that worked pretty good. So this is a short guide I did for a friend of mine once before to kind of explain to him. So when I'm riding a program and I say go ride easy hills, rolling hills, steep climbs, long climbs, that sort of thing, this is another good way to explain it. And a lot of these definitions here you would have heard in like Tour de France when they say, oh, they're going up a horse category climb or a category 1 climb, that sort of thing. This will give you a specific example of what they mean by that. And it's a good way you can kind of classify when you ride hills yourself, how hard that hill was and kind of where you are in your training with hills. So we go at the top, the hardest ones are the horse category, or HC. So you see them in some of the big Tour de France stages and some of those multi-stage tour rides. So they're the hardest climbs, 1,500 meters plus of elevation. And a lot of the times, because they're so big, those climbs are also, you're going up into elevation. So you have the hypoxic and altitude challenges to deal with. Then we have category 1, which is climbs 1,100 to 1,500 meters elevation. Category 2, 600 to 1,100. Category 3, 300 to 600. Category 4, 100 to 300. Everything else under that is not categorized. It's nothing. Okay, it's just a road. So particularly speaking in Southeast Queensland, I've done most of the sort of climbs around Southeast Queensland. You won't find, the hardest one you'll find is category 2. Okay, so none of the climbs around Southeast Queensland fit into anything harder than that, mainly because of the elevation. We don't have that ceiling to work with in this area of Australia. So in Brisbane in particular, like category 2, you're talking about like Mount Nebo, Mount Glorious. So that's kind of the hardest climb around this neck of the woods. And those, I believe that climb, it gets its elevation a lot from just the distance you have to go. You have to go about 20 Ks continually up and down. So it builds up. So that's why it makes it category 2. So I thought it's important to explain that because some rides or group rides I've done in the past, you'll designate it as a flat ride, but during the ride, there's undulations, there's ups and downs. You might have to go over a road that goes over a train line, so it goes up and over. And then post-ride, you have people saying, oh, that wasn't flat, there was some hills and stuff, oh my God. But if you refer back to the actual official categorization of climbs, they're not hills, they're just bumps in the road. And just the nature of cycling, you are able to cover quite some distance, like even a 40K, 60K ride. You're going to have rises and falls in the terrain. That's just unavoidable. It's not like running where you can't actually get too far in most of your runs. So you're probably not going to encounter too many massive climbs unless you go looking for them. So sort of have a look at that when you look at your own training and the hills that you're currently doing, and have a think about how hard your climbs are and how, where you can kind of take it to. You can obviously go a bit harder if you have the environment to play in. So if I scroll down here, you can see these are a couple particular climbs in Brisbane that I found. So for those who do around Eaton's Hill area, you have this segment here, down Eaton's Crossing Road. You actually come down the hill. Which way am I going here? Yeah, you sort of come down this way, down the hill really fast, and then it goes up here along Eaton's Crossing Road. So that's a category 4 climb. 8% still, yeah, it's quite an all right gradient, but it's only 1 kilometre. Okay, and it only goes up like 39 metres. So it's actually not, doesn't actually go too high. Oh, sorry, it goes up 80 metres all up. Category 3, so Mount Cootha up the backside, that's only a category 3, guys. Okay, some people really hype this climb up, but it's really not that hard. Of course, it's hard if you do it at effort. Anything's hard if you do it at effort. But if you're just riding your bike, it's actually overall, it's not a hard climb. Okay, elevation difference, 200 meters there. Then bumping it up a bit, we go category 2, so Mount Glorious Road. And you can see here, it's even shallower gradient than the Eaton's Hill one, but it goes for 5.5 Ks. So of course the elevation builds up quite quickly then. So that's it in Brisbane really. There's a few others that would fall into those categories, but those are some of the main ones that come to mind. So yeah, I thought that would be good just to kind of give you some framework to work within when you're riding hills, and you know, you can say to yourself, okay, I want to do a hard hill day today, so I'll go do a Mount Nebo. Or I want to do an easier hill day, I'll go do Mount Cootha. Okay, you can kind of modulate your intensity of your training throughout the week or the months, and classify it in this sort of way. What else I was going to talk about? So the next way, the next part I was going to talk about is probably a commonly discussed topic with riding hills. You have two main ways to ride hills. You can ride it in a comfortable gearing where you can maintain a steady cadence. Okay, so you're using the mechanical efficiency of the bike to climb the hill, or you can ride a hill using like a big gear and really use a lot of muscle effort to really push down on the pedals. Okay, so it's not as mechanically efficient, but you're using a lot more muscular force. Okay, so neither is right or wrong, but there is a lot of hype, or a lot of hype put around the big gear grinding up the hills, and that's fine. But just remember, the main reason people ride hills that way is to work the muscles. Okay, if you're in an actual race and you're trying to race fast up a hill, then using that method, unless you're built like Jan Ullrich or that German sprint cyclist Robert Forsum, that's not going to work for you. Your muscles are going to fatigue real quickly. You won't be able to accelerate to react to attacks or anything like that. So just remember, the reason people do that is to help with the muscular endurance type of work. Okay, I wouldn't condone racing that way. You do that way to get stronger, so that when you go back to the smaller gears, it feels easier. That's my way of looking at it. So no right or wrong answer. There's just a purpose for why people ride like that, and that's why it is. So I'll show you a couple of videos, like a couple of different ways people ride bikes, and like whether you stand or you sit, it's not a big deal really. Like I did a big race a couple of years back, and it had a long climb. It was about 15 Ks in it. It was a major climb. And so a lot of my training, I trained specifically for that. And so I trained a lot of my higher efforts in the seated position. I still trained to stand up, but I tried to do most of it seated, just because it was such a long climb. The constant getting up and out of the saddle does take a lot of effort. It doesn't seem like it, but when you're under stress and you're trying to go fast up a hill, it does wear you down by constantly changing your position. So I just trained a bit more seated. But there's no real right or wrong answer to whether you ride your bike up a hill seated or whether you ride standing. It's a comfort thing, and when you're going uphill, you're going to be stressed. So whatever you can do to make it feel easier, that's the right thing for you to do. So like even just look at a couple examples here of tour level riders. So share another screen, work out how to do it again. New share. Okay, so I like this first one. So this first one is Alberto Contador. He has won the tour one or twice before, but under suspicious circumstances. And he was always known for they called it dancing on the pedals or standing. And he used to do a lot of his training. He used to do a lot of hill climbing training, standing and doing like 20-minute efforts and things like that, standing. So that was his preferred way of racing up hills was standing. So I'll just show you this quick clip. He's the guy in the pink, and you'll see what I mean.
Operating with something of a deficit. Photographer's motorbike. Contador trying to take as much advantage as he can off that. He's riding away here already from Rigoberto Urán, and is this Contador's big push on the early slopes before we get up to the likes of 18-20% to try and make the difference and cut that gap?
Well, I think Contador will just walk away close to 100%. He's not going to, really go into the red here because...
So there's a quick video of Contador standing and climbing. And look, everyone stands and climbs, but he used to do it all the time. That was just how he rode hills. So look at that. Try and picture that cadence he was doing standing. And then we'll have a look at Cadel Evans now in the year that he won the Tour de France going up Alpe d'Huez, and how he generally rode up hills. He was more like a diesel, just sticks with like a big gear and just kind of maintains a steady pace. So let's have a look at that one.
Continues to set the pace all the way up the Galibier. No one has helped him. Voigtland be prepared just to follow him. 2 kilometers to go at the...
So just go back. And you look at the guy behind him. The guy behind him is doing kind of the same pace basically, but he's standing with a high cadence. So there's different ways to go about it. We'll just have a look again.
To set the pace all the way up the Galibier. No one has helped him. Voigtland be prepared just to follow him. 2 kilometers.
So that wasn't unusual for Cadel to ride like that. I'll just change my screen back. Yeah, so there's no right or wrong, standing, sitting. Don't get caught up in it too much, whatever's comfortable for you. But if you get a coach and they might prescribe, okay, I want you to seat. I want you to do this hill effort seated. Okay, that's just because they're trying to get you to work on a certain area of your cycling. Okay, but there's no right or wrong answer really. So now I'll just have a look at another little sheet I've done up, just to show you the different ways you can train with hills. Okay, so how you can approach your training and change it up to try and get yourself better. So share this one here. Back to here. So different methods for training with hills, and there's probably a couple more, but these are a few that I work with. So first one is a steady state effort. So you're just sticking to the one continuous effort the whole way up the hill. You're not sprinting and then recovering. You're just holding a certain effort the whole way up the hill. So that effort could be a comfortable effort. So it could just be in a nice easy gear that you prefer to ride in, and you're keeping your overall effort fairly low. Your speed will obviously come right down, but that's not a problem. Next one is tempo. So that would be something that you could maintain if you were doing the hill for like an hour or two. Okay, so it's harder than comfortable effort, but still you could hold it for quite a long time, and you're starting to breathe a bit heavier. Then you got sweet spot. So this now we're getting into like a range where you might only hold it for you might only be able to hold this effort for say 30 minutes, okay? And then you tap out. Then the next steady state effort would be threshold. So here it's an even shorter time frame that you could hold it. you know, maybe 20 minutes, 10 minutes, that sort of thing. So still quite a long duration, but the effort's right up there. And then finally, VO2 effort. So this is close to maximum effort. All right, you're only going to hold this for a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes. Okay, but then you're completely tapped. You have to get off your bike and stand on the side of the road. All right, so not pleasant. Anytime you see VO2 in a workout, you've got to be scared. At least I do. The second method, hard gear grind or low gear cadence up. So hard gear grind with a low cadence. So low, just churning out, using that, focusing on the muscular endurance like we talked about before. Next one is standing. Okay, so you might need to work on your transition from seating to standing, getting balanced. Or the other way you want to stand is to relieve certain muscle groups and place the work onto other muscle groups. And also you need to stand if you're going to accelerate. If you're in an actual bike race and you want to make an attack, you'll need to know how to do that. Fourth one, acceleration. So the way I'll do these is I kind of mix them in with a steady state effort. So you'll climb up the hill steady state, and then you might put these 10 to 20 second accelerations inside that steady state. Accelerate, back down the steady state. Okay, so they're good for just improving your ability to accelerate and recover when going uphill. And then the last one's just all out TT effort. Just go as hard as you can and try and get your best time for a certain length of hill or segment or whatever effect you're trying to target. So those are a few different ways to think about how to change up your hill training, rather than just going out there and just riding hills at a comfortable, steady pace all the time, or rather than going and riding hills and doing them all flat out, okay? Because that really does create a lot of fatigue, really hurts, and can sometimes make your rides unenjoyable, and might actually lead you to riding less because you need more recovery time later, versus trying to change it up using some of these other methods so you can continue training more consistently. Yeah, so that's about all I had for today, and just going over some of the ways I train for hills and some of the programming methods I used, and using some of these techniques and approaches to riding hills. You can come up with a whole bunch of different training session plans, and then use those to progress people through the various stages and get them stronger at cycling. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping to put out a bit more of this sort of content, just to share some of the knowledge I've picked up and some of the ways I think about laying out the training that I write for people. All right, cheers. Thank you.